Going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Life is one of the heaviest beams one can try to support. It is known to go through storms that contain heavy winds and downpours. But you are built to stand and not collapse. I challenge you to grow out of your comfort zone. The biggest giant you will ever face in life is your mindset. One of the biggest things that limit us and keep us defeated is the opinion we have of ourselves. When I changed my mind, it changed my life. I didn't just survive, I bounced back better. Bounce 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 back better.
Hello. Happy Sunday to everyone that's tuning in. Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers. First and foremost, take the time and share. Hit that share button. Make sure you share this out so all of your friends can tune in for this amazing discussion we have set up for today, talking about the joy and challenges of motherhood. Today we have Miss Jovonka Brown and her oldest daughter, Jacquel. So they're going to just be talking about their experiences of being a mother and the joys that come with it, as well as the challenges. So I'm not going to take too much of their time. I'm going to let them jump right in, but make sure you guys stay all the way to the end. We just may be giving away a prize today to some lucky mother, so make sure you stay all the way to the end, which they're going to pull you in anyway, so it's not going to be any way that you're going to click off because the discussion is going to be great. But at this time, we're going to turn it over to Miss Jovonka and let her start it out, talking about the joys of motherhood. So I'll turn it over to you, Miss Jovonka.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers that's tuned in. I hope you all had a blessed Mother's Day today. And I just want to introduce myself. My name is Jovonka Brown. I am a mother of 5. I have 3 girls and 2 boys, and I have 5 grandchildren. And he wants me to talk about the joys of motherhood. I believe that the joy only lasts while they're babies, to be honest. That's the joy when they're first born. That's where I had the most joy, is when they grow up, that is not too joyful. But then the joy returns when they become full-blown adults and they're living the successful life that you always prayed that they would have. So those are the joys of motherhood for me. And Jacquel?
Hi, everybody. I am her oldest. I'm Jacquel. I have 2 kids, and a girl and a boy. And I would say the joys of motherhood, like she said, when they're younger, it is a joy, especially the baby part. Oh, it's so beautiful. You wake up every day in love, and then they start talking to you. And that changes, because then they say stuff and you're looking at them like, okay, who taught you this? Where'd you get this from? But it's just like looking in a mirror, and sometimes you don't like what you see. And they're little images of yourself, but they don't always take on the greatest parts. They take on all of you. So they show you some, and eventually they evolved into other little people. I was blessed enough to have 2 that are like mind-blowing. I have the most mind-blowing 2 little kids that anyone has ever met. And everybody who meets them tell me that. So mature, very independent. I don't know where they came from. It was not me. I promise you, because they are like little aliens.
Well, I've seen your 2 kids, and, we all say, when people say, oh, your kids are the best, and regardless of how they act behind closed doors, they know how to act when they're out in public. Very mannerable. They just know they just know how to get on our nerves sometimes. But at the same time, it's just a joy when you see kids out in public, and, because you don't get today the yes sirs and the yes ma'ams and the no ma'ams. You get that out of very few kids today. But I mean, your kids, when I've been, both of you guys, all well-mannered. So, I know it stemmed from you, and then it just shower it down to the grandkids, and that's one thing that I commend the both of you on, because they are very well mannered.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
Get it from my mother. The other one, my son, he acts more like me. My daughter acts like my mother.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, she does. That's the one. That's the most wonderful child, the one that acts like me. But when you have multiple children, I mean, motherhood is a joy in itself. It just brings you joy to create a human that is just a replica of your life. They represent the good and bad part of you. You have that mean streak, and then you got that child, and you're like, oh, I remember I used to act like that. And so having 5 children, I had to deal with 5 different personalities. And you know what their favorite thing was to say when I go off? Crazy. Yeah, I'm crazy. I'm dealing with 5 different personalities. I'm schizophrenic because you have to deal with each one of them in a different way. You have this one with this soft personality, and you have this one with this hard personality, and then you have that one that just won't listen. So I had to become 5 different people. And
Yeah.
so the joy of dealing with that is that it taught me a lot. It made me a better person, not just, just being a mother of 5 children. It made me a better person. It helped me to grow and develop into a better woman,
Yes.
being the mother of 5 children. And then the grandchildren come along and they make you even better person. I always say, I wish my grandkids would have came first, because they're better. It's
Mm-hmm.
easier to deal with them than the children. But
Right.
they're just like me, my little grandchildren. I tell my daughter all the time, I think I have like the best grandchildren on the planet. I always say that because they're such
One.
wonderful little humans.
-1, she has the best grandchildren on the planet. My niece is a handful and a half, and I've never met a child like her. In our family, we're used to, like you said, well-mannered, well-behaved. They listen. My
Calm.
niece is rogue. She has gone rogue. So
Yeah.
that when
Uh-huh.
she's 2, she'll be 3 soon, and she's not normal like
Oh no,
us.
she's not.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Mm-hmm.
she's not. She give me a run. She give me a run for my money.
So, I know, we didn't formally meet, but I remember you guys years ago when I first moved to Arizona, and we were going to the same church, and you guys used to sit a few pews back from me, and all of your kids used to always be with you in church, and I know, years ago you became, a single parent, your husband passed away. And I know it
Yes.
had to be really hard for you, to raise 5 kids all by yourself. But, you've done a great job. Everyone is pretty much grown now, almost. Joy will
Yes.
always be the baby, but, he
Yes.
considered himself grown. But talk about that. How were you able to endure that process all, by yourself?
Well, of course, like you said, you saw me in church, so it was with the help of the Lord. I just want to mention that. But and it wasn't just we say things like it was the help of the Lord, but God used people. He didn't come down himself. He used people like you, like Mr. Eric. He brought people into my children's life, like Miss Mary. He always sent people to help me, to assist me. But it's been 18 years now since my husband passed away. Jacquel, I believe, was 14 or 15 years old when it happened. I believe she was around that age. And when he passed away, it was you know how it is. Like all of a sudden, you become
Yeah.
a single parent. It wasn't always
Right.
like that. Like I said, she was 14, 15. She was in high school. So it was like all of a sudden I had to make adjustments. I had to change some things. It was things that I was doing that I could no longer do because I had to. And I had 5 children. We had 5 children together. And so I immediately had to adjust my life. But it was just the leading. Honestly, it was really the leading of the Holy Spirit. Like I just had to
Mm-hmm.
follow whatever the Spirit of God told me to do. And I did that. And I believe that all the decisions I made, not every last one of the decisions I made, but most of my decisions came through prayer. And I did a lot of things that didn't seem right in other people's eyes, but it was the follow. And when you following God, you do some crazy things that
Right.
people think like, why would you make that decision? God told me to do it, and that was my answer. So it was really my foundation. That's my
Yeah.
foundation. Christ
Yeah.
is my foundation. And so that's what I built on. And all five of them, I thank God all the time, because all five of them, they probably not where they think they should be, but I thank God that they're not where they could have been. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
Like, none of them
Yeah.
are in prison. None of them are in jail. Praise God. None of them are struggling on any drugs or anything. Thank you, Lord, because there's so much out there that can happen. There's so
Right.
many things that can happen. And I'm gonna plug your book right here, if you don't mind, LifeStruction. So I read your book because you asking, we're talking about foundation. And so your book, LifeStruction, I'm gonna go ahead and get a plug right here for anybody that's listening. I read the book. I bought the book, honestly, because you're my friend. And I support anything my friends do. You could have told me I don't even like hot dogs, but if you told me you were going to open a hot dog stand, I would have started eating hot dogs just
Right.
to support my friend. And so I
Uh-huh.
bought the book and I read the book. I laid down and I read it, and I really enjoyed the book. And then I said, you know what? Your life sounds so much like my son. You named my baby Joey. And I said, this book sounds so much like the direction his life is going in. And so I talk a lot about the Bible and about God, but sometimes, the Bible will not reach everybody. Sometimes it will reach everybody, but books like LifeStruction will. And so I handed my son that book one day, and I said, I believe that you'll benefit from this book, because this sounds like the direction your life is going in. And at this point, you're not as far as he went, but you're somewhere in that book. So at this point, you can begin to rebuild your life. So I thank God for that, for your book. I thank God for you writing it at the perfect time. How the word of God says, for such a time as this. When I bought
Right.
that book, it was at the perfect time where his life was headed in a different direction. And your story was his story, is his story. And so I just thank you for that. I just wanted to plug your book right there, because you asked me how I did this, and that's how I did it. Things like that come up to help me. That book came to help me, and it came to help me with him. And so I thank God for that, because everybody, like I said, everybody's not going to pick up the Bible, but somebody may
Right.
pick up instruction, and it'll
Yeah.
change their life. And I was telling Jacquel, I said, the Paul, Peter, John, James, they wrote based upon what the Holy Spirit gave them. I believe that you wrote that book based upon what the Holy Spirit gave you. And it's to help
Yes.
somebody. Peter may not have had an addiction. If he did, we didn't know about it. You know what I'm saying? Paul, John, James, they might not have dealt with crack, cocaine, and weed. They might not have dealt with those. We don't know. But there's somebody who did. And I thank God
Right.
you were able to write a book. And we have the Old Testament and we have the New Testament. And I believe that there's a next testament. And that's going to be the story that you're leaving behind in LifeStruction. That's going to bless the next generation after we're gone on. That book is going to bless that generation to come, because my son is Gen Z, that generation. And I believe that that book is going to bless that generation, because they may never pick up the Bible, And so I just wanted to thank you for that. I know I did a whole lot of talking right there, but I had to get that out. And I thank you for that. And I thank God for your book.
Well, jump
Wow.
in and put myself in her story as to how
Uh-huh.
she made it. So I was the oldest. I was 15 when my father died. And when he did, in the beginning, it's like, okay, we're just going to move on with life. You wake up the next day and you think that everything is going to be normal. And this person will just be missing. You don't know at 15 what you're supposed to do, but the amount of responsibility and things like that I had to take on at 15 to assist my mother made me a very envious child. It made me angry, and it made me want to run. So I became difficult for her. So even though, yes, it may sound sweet, it wasn't. I didn't understand where she was getting direction from. So when she said certain things to me, I was like, girl, you're crazy, in my head. Like, you're out of your mind. First of all, I'm not doing that. Second of all, I'm 15. I'm nobody's parent, but I had to start doing it. And so
Yeah.
I started to resent her because I had kids under me that were getting all the attention. I wasn't able to have mommy because I have 4 younger siblings.
Right.
I was feeling neglected. I had feelings of abandonment. Those things started to pile up on me as the oldest. in that family. So even though she's following direction, and I don't say that as like, oh, this is all negative, because that's
Right.
not how it is. The thing is,
Mhm.
at that time, it all felt bad. We had a very strained relationship,
Yes.
and it took us a while to even learn how to. Good morning. I'm not kidding. It sounds funny, but we lived in
Yes.
a house that barely spoke. She didn't know me, and I didn't know her, because we weren't
Wow.
trying to help. We were raising kids. And I say we because there was a lot of things that I did that I didn't know it was a part of raising. I
Yeah,
thought it was
yeah.
part of being a big sister. So,
Mhm.
I'm doing these things. She's being a mom. She's trying to raise 5 kids by herself. And here I am assisting. We didn't know one another at all. We had
Right.
we difficult relationship. So yes, we made it. Then we hit adulthood and we start to go through things. And you look back and you're like, okay, I remember my mom did this every Saturday morning. These are things that come to you and help you raise your kids. Every Saturday morning, I became the Black mom that turned on gospel music, waking up my kids and banging pots and pans because I'm cleaning, but I couldn't help it because it was instilled in me. I didn't
Mhm.
she would do crazy stuff like that. I didn't understand it, but when I started to raise my own, that those things started to come up in me because I realized it's keeping me going. This is
Yeah.
what's getting me through, because I'm a single mother. My kid's father has been in prison their entire life. So I was also a single parent. So I said, well, this is what kept her going. Let me do it. Let me see if this works. I got up and would get cleaning on Saturday morning. It became a part of my routine. It helped me raise my kids. It helped me get me through to the next week, and then the next week. And eventually you grow and you learn from it, because those are times when you build that relationship. While I'm washing dishes, vacuuming a floor, when you're spoken to and you're like, oh, this is what she was doing. This is why
Yeah.
it sounded crazy. And now here we are. I'm 32, about to be 33 years old. I was 15 at that time. But I'm about to be 33. And I'll tell you, me and my mom have the best relationship
Yes.
because of the fact that she did what she was being directed to do by the spirit, rather than what everyone else says she should have done, because they told her, your kids talk too much, they're too grown, they're disrespectful. She said, no, I teach them to give respect to who gives respect to them. My children have opinions, they have voices. I don't kick them out of the rooms when adults are talking. They understand. So yeah, they can be here, she said, but if they walk out this house or run their mouth, they're going to deal with the consequences of what comes to them. And that's how she raised us. And people thought it was crazy. They used to tell her all the time, oh, your kids are grown. No, we had to mature. We didn't have time to be babies all the time. And honestly, it helped me, because now I have kids that I've raised to be sort of like me. And that's why I say, in the beginning, like, these kids I don't know where they came from, because
Mhm.
very different, very mature, respectful, responsible, things that I didn't notice I was instilling in them. But I took it from all of the craziness between mine and her relationship. We tweaked
Yes.
something and it helped me to kind of get through my parenting journey.
Wow. Wow. But the comeback is what's always so powerful, because
Yes.
you go through that era, you went through that period of time where you said it was like, Jacquel, you were kind of stressed out and definitely in your feelings, because you're like, I'm 15. I want to be 15. I don't want to take care of them. In so many words, all racked up in your head. That's your job.
Your kids, right.
It's not much. And and
Right.
and and I can get it. So you start to get stressed out because you can't be a kid. Because you have to be the big sister. Slash mom. Sometimes, if mom had to work or go somewhere, you had to watch them. You want to go out and do something, but you can't because so I can definitely understand how you would start to catch feelings and walk around always stressed out, because it's like, I want to be a kid,
Yes.
Yeah.
and I get it. And I mean, I know of some people like that, and the parents have these kids and then they want to leave, but it's a difference in working and having the big sister or brother watch them, and you have a bunch of kids and you just want to all of a sudden turn into an 18-year-old again, and
Yeah.
you out doing whatever,
Right.
and
Right.
you expect, so it's definitely
Right.
a difference.
It's a
It's
Yeah.
definitely a
difference.
difference. But I mean, I'm just amazed at how, because when I see, like pictures of you guys on social media or whatever, it's always, you can, like, I'm reading a book right now that it talks about studying body language. And I'm big on that. And, you know, you can see pictures sometimes of people and you'd be like, they took that picture together, but they ain't happy.
Yeah.
You know, but then at the same time, you know, you can see pictures and you can feel the love. You know, you can look at the picture and feel how much love is in that picture, how much love is in the room. And that's the way that you guys always display, you know, the love in your family. And I totally, you know, commend you guys for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It was on, Jacquel is correct. I had to apologize to her for that. I told her, you know, we had a lot of healing that took place because sometimes as parents, we don't know what we're doing. You know, I didn't know at the time that I was forcing her into a role that she wasn't designed for. You know, like you said, they were my children. And so when we began our healing process as mother and daughter, I apologized to her for that. I was like, I shouldn't have did that to you. I should have like allowed you to have, you know, a teenage life, you know, not to be co-parenting with me because that wasn't your role, you know. But I did apologize to it, and that began our healing process. And that's why we have the relationship that we have right now today. And you make so many mistakes as a parent, you know, even though you think you're doing the right thing, sometimes you think you are, but then when you really think back on it, you be like, I should have did that a little different. It's something that I could have did a little different. So, you know, we don't always do everything right. And, you know, as mothers, especially, we gonna get the blunt end of it because it's majority of the time, that's the only person that's there. The majority of the time, we're the only parent most of the time. So we all that. So, you know.
Well, I actually realize what, now that you're saying that, you know, we definitely had began our healing process around this time. So it's actually only been a year that me and my mom have had a relationship this month. So it's been way different than anything I growing up with her. Like I know her. I didn't, you know, to be honest, and she didn't know me. But like I say, like, oh, I know my mom. I told her the last time she was out here, unfortunately, she came out for a funeral. But I told her, I said, you know, if anything is to happen, because it was my cousin's mother, and it's, you know, her first cousin, and you know, my cousin's mother. So it's like, you know, she's the older cousin. And she passed away. And I said, you know what? If something happened to you, even though it's only been such and such amount of time for us, I have no regrets. I wouldn't
You did tell me that.
Anything, because this year has been such a growth, like a large, because once you're willing to heal and you're willing to be open and realize that this parenting thing, there's nothing that's going to be perfect. Nobody perfect. I accepted her flaws, she accepted mine, and then it's kind of like, okay, well, now let's do this thing. Now when I do say something, don't get offended, and if I don't like this, don't get mad. Learn to accept no from one another. It's hard for her because she's so, you know, it's hard for her, not me as the child.
We had to do some LifeStruction. We had to begin to rebuild. You know what I mean?
There it is.
We had to lay a new foundation because we had no communication skills. So we had to lay a new foundation of communication. So then once I began to understand how she felt, she began to understand how I felt. Thus, we have like the mother-daughter relationship that we should have probably been had because it was just a bunch of miscommunication. Me not saying, "Hey, you're a child. Let me allow you to be that." And so it was just a bunch of miscommunication.
It was miscommunication, and the thing is, my feelings as a child is that you have these feelings, but you better not say it. She never. It's just the restriction you feel. That she needed my help. I knew that there was assistance needed. I stepped into that role and said, forget my feelings. But when I went in the room at night, I was sad. When I went at night, I was lonely. Those things built up and it stayed with me until it was like, oh, I'm allowed to tell her how I feel. Wait a minute. Let her know that day. I didn't know that it was allowed. I had no idea. She didn't know how to pull it out of me because she was not a child. So,
she's absolutely correct because one day she checked me and she said, she stopped me in the middle of a sentence. I was scolding her about something and she looked at me. She said, I need to remind you of something. I'm an adult. She says, I'm a woman just like you're a woman. You don't have to talk to me like I'm a child anymore. And she said, from this point on, I would ask that you talk to me like I'm an adult. I have children of my own. I take care of my own children now. And I stood there for a minute and looked at her and I was like, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I hadn't realized because I was so used to being like that, and then I don't know if I didn't realize she grew up or what, but I
Right.
just always stayed in mother mode. And sometimes you can't just be in mother mode when she's a mother herself. So we had to
Right.
change the relationship. We had to change it. She's still my daughter. She's going to always be my daughter, but I had to respect her on another level as a mother. Her
Right.
mother, a mother herself. Yeah.
Right. So, Jacquel, question for you.
Yeah.
So, with you, coming up, learning some motherhood, a lot of your motherhood tasks from your mom. What would you say? What similarities and differences do you see, basically in your two parenting skills, or parenting styles, rather?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I think the biggest thing that I took from her that I'll say is very similar is my cleaning habits. Absolutely. Very clean, very neat, very orderly. My mother was that we used to tell her she had OCD, go sit down, get out our face, quit wiping walls. Like it was crazy stuff like that. Now my kids are telling me to get out, quit wiping their walls, that I'm a little crazy, that I may have OCD. They do it to me now. So those things I did take. One thing that I took and I changed and I altered because I felt like it was not of good use to me, the things that she didn't know. And so as our relationship grew, we learned the things that she didn't know. And one of them was that you have to be she didn't know at the time that she was being so many different characters and maybe not necessarily what we needed. I needed the more of an affectionate, nurturing, I needed that because that was my personality, but I didn't get that from her. So
Right.
I learned to now watch my children and look at what it is that they need. And I don't just, try to survive. And I know that my mom was in survival mode a lot. 5 kids, single mother, like, come on, you are nothing but I gotta survive. We gotta make it. We're gonna do it. And we never, ever went without. And when I say we more than enough, I mean it. We were spoiled. So,
Yeah.
we never knew that she was in survival mode. We never noticed. But with my kids, one thing that I did do that I wish my mother would have done is I tell them, Mommy's not feeling it today. I'm not in the mood. I'm not in a good place. I'm feeling like this. And I feel like that today is rough. I paid a lot of bills yesterday. I'm gonna give y'all your money. I need you to take your time and go do what do something on your own because I need time. My mother never took time to herself. And or when the stress got heightened, we got fussed at, or it was like, get up, do this, do that. But it was because we didn't know that she was in survival mode at certain times. But I've learned to be a lot more open with my kids, even though people don't agree with that. They're like, tell your kids everything. I think that's a lie. I think it's a lie that really it teaches them how to brush things under the rug, and I don't like that. So I've learned to be a lot more open with them. I don't really have I'm to be honest, and I thank God, but I don't really have financial issues to share with my kids. So it's not like that. But on the days when I don't feel like mothering today, I'm tired right now. I don't want to be mom. If you can go in your rooms and, find something for y'all to do all day, maybe call your cousin and see if you can go over or this. I'm honest with them on the days when I cannot do it. But my mother pushed, and I think that was probably a mistake, but she did it. Something that I definitely changed. I definitely do different.
Okay. Nice. I love it. So, Miss Jovonka, question for you. What advice would you have for mothers that are, I'm gonna say, big enablers of their adult children? So they just can't seem to back off and back away and just let them figure it out themselves.
That's a great question. That is a great question because that is very difficult to do. That's very difficult to do because you're in their life so long that you're used to hovering. You get so comfortable with it. You get so used to it. And like I said with Jacquel, I didn't realize she had grown up. And so I was still hovering. I was still in her business, still where you going, what you doing, and kind of like holding on to her. It wasn't until a few years ago, me and all of my children, all of us fell out. We had this big fight, big falling out, and everybody went their separate ways. We're not talking. I'm not talking to you no more. I wasn't talking to them. It was a big old fight. And then they brought up some things that they felt like I was wrong in doing. I brought up some things that I felt like they were wrong in doing. And so we went our separate ways, and I had not talked to them. I had not communicated with them. And I think it had been like a year or maybe 2 years that I had not talked to them. And that was like it was really hard for me. And so during that process, and this is to help somebody who's enabling their children. Now, during that process, I was really, really going through it because separating from them was really hard because they had always been there. They always been in my life. That's, they were my children. That's all I had. And so one day I was going for a walk and I was talking to God about it. And I said, how could they just do this to me? Like, I gave everything. I did everything. I poured into them. I covered them. I took care of them. I provided for them. I did this. And God said, that's the problem. You thought all along that they belonged to you. I just gave them to you for a certain amount of time, but I asked you to give them back to me. And he told me clear as day, he said, you're playing tug of war with me. I want them. And every time I go to get them, you pull them back and you come back. You have to let them go. And when he told me that, he said, let go of the rope. It's my turn now. Like, I can take it from here. And so I said, okay. So I was like, and then once I let go and I just began to get to know Jovonka and live Jovonka's life and then Jacquel came back. Me and her started forming a relationship. Like she said, it's only been a year. And then recently I just started talking to Sherelle. And then one of my other daughters show up at a church service I was at, Danielle. And then eventually they all started coming back. And so at some point you have to let them go because you have to realize they're not yours in the first place. And only thing you're going to do is you're hurting yourself by trying to hold on to them and enabling them. And because enabling them don't do anything but make them weak. You know what I mean? And you're taking care, you find yourself taking care of a grown adult person when you're a grown adult yourself and you take care of a grown adult person, but when you let them go, guess what? Those grown adults end up taking care of you. And that's what I wanted all along anyway. That's what I always wanted anyway. But that's what happens. They end up taking care of you instead of you taking care. Because I always refuse to take care of a 35, 40-year-old child. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Y'all going to grow up. You're going to be successful. You're going to take care of me. But for somebody who's enabling their children and not able to let them go and continue to keep pulling them back, you're stunting their growth. They're never going to grow like that.
Stunting their growth. You're instilling fear in them.
Yes.
I was afraid of everything. I was afraid of bills coming in the mail. I was afraid of, driving my car and not pulling up to a house with someone else's car there because I knew I was going home by myself. Certain things like that I feared because she had held so tight to us for so long that I really didn't know that I could do it. I never knew I could until she let go.
Yeah. And so you have to, I mean, my advice to them would be, let them go. Let them go. And just trust God. Just trust. I trust them with their lives. I mean, the 2 years that we weren't talking, I prayed for them every day. I never had there was not, people would say, you still not talking to them? What if something happened? God's not going to allow that to happen. He's going to make sure that we reconcile. It's just part of the process. I had to realize I had to let them go. This is part of the process. And they're doing great things now. I have a daughter who just got accepted into law school. She starts law school in the fall. I'm very proud of her. Even though we went that time without talking, her time was productive with being away from me. And I pray for them. They know I always cover them in prayer. I'm always there. I may not be there physically, but I'm always there. I'm always there. They always going to hear things that I say. They always going to hear the things I say. But my advice to anybody that's enabling their grown adult children is to let them go because it's beneficial for them. And not only beneficial for them, it's beneficial for you because they'll end up taking care of you.
Yeah.
Being able to take care of you.
Right. Yesterday we had a little thing from my mom, and I was talking to a good friend of mine, and he was telling me basically his son was pretty much moving back in, and he said this was like the third time that his son was moving back in, and he says he has no stability. And, you know, he was like, he get a little bit of money. He don't think about the bills that he have here and, you know, stuff he have to do. He get a little bit of money and he just see that money as, oh, I can go get a place. But you still have a car payment and you still have this. And then you get in that place and you butt your head. It's like, oh, I took on this place. I can't afford this. Now I can't pay my car and this and this. So he's like, I talked to my wife and we said, we're going to teach him some structure. So he told him, you can come back, but I'm giving you 30 days to get it right. He said, I'm giving you 30 days to get it right. He said, if you can't be responsible with your money, every time you get paid, I want you to give me or your mom so much money, we'll hold it for you.
Right.
He was like, you're getting out of here in 30 days. And this time when you get out, unless, you know, pray to God it doesn't, but unless it's sickness that hits your body or something, you're not coming back. Because, you know, it's almost like you're too old to be experimenting. He's almost 40. And, you know, it's like you're too old to be experimenting. And then you feel, well, I can always go back home, which we know you always going to open the door for your kids. But like he said, you have to teach them some type of structure, you know, because if not, what happens if God was to take one of us away today or tomorrow? Now what? You know, so I think it's really good. And I thank you for that great feedback on the question that I asked you. Jacquel, question for you. What is it most that you want for your kids? So, I mean, basically, you know how we have this picture of, you know, well, you know, I want, you know, my kid to be this or this. I want him to go to college or this. But, you know, far as your motherhood and the things that the tools that you are giving them right now, what is it most that you would like to see them display once they become adults?
To be honest, it's not really that deep and it's not that hard. This was something that even I can go back to your first question and, you know, include that in it, because this was something that I took from my mom is I want them to be happy and I want them to be successful. And that's it. And the why those two things are very important to me is because I don't care about what they do. If you tell me, like I said, it's coming back from things that this is something I did take from my mom. No matter what it was that we wanted to do, I don't care. People could laugh. And it's actually kind of funny, but my sister wanted to be the manager at Pizza Hut. That's what she used to say. Her teacher told my mom that she was concerned. And my mother said, why? She says she wants to be the manager at Pizza Hut. She was, you know, just confused. When we got home, my mother said, if you're going to be the manager, then you go ahead and make sure that you learn everything you need to learn to own a Pizza Hut. It doesn't matter what you want to do. Take it to the furthest extent. I don't care what it sounds like. Pizza Hut sounds crazy. You know, to be like, oh, I want to be the manager of Pizza Hut. It sounds small. It sounds minute. But she said, listen, have it in your mind that you want to be a leader. You said manager. So I'm going to take that little piece and I'm going to tell you, push it. Go and own a Pizza Hut if that's what
Right.
So my kids, my son plays video games almost all day. And people tell me, you should stop him. Oh my God, it's bad for him to be in front of that screen. I get all of that. I've done the studies. Trust me. I know what can really happen to him. I understand the things that are going in him. But I also see the potential for a boy who loves technology. I know that he takes an interest in coding. I know that he takes an interest in graphic design. I see certain things that I'm like, I'm not going to stop him because I see what he loves and I want him to do what he loves, do what's going to make him happy and what can be successful. And so those are two things I feed into him right now. I said, do you want me to get you a camera? Would you like to screen? Would you like to stream? Do you want me to put you on, you know, such and such platform? Do you want me? He's like, yeah. And so we're like, okay, well, let's get you a mic. Let's do this. I'm going to help you be happy.
Invest in whatever they want to do. My daughter told me one time, my youngest daughter, I want to have an ice cream truck or something. And I was like, okay, let's go find something. Let's start buying ice cream and sell it out the house. You know, it's just investing, whatever you want to do. Let's do it, you know, because you just never know where it may take them. You
And what
never
you
know.
want, it doesn't start when they're adults. It starts with that little spark that's in them that the world tries to kill when they're in these school systems, and they tell them to sit down, be quiet, don't, you talk when you raise your hand. They are not in prison. And I let the teachers know, if they call me about some nonsense like that, what type of institution are you running that you think my son is going to sit in a seat and raise his hand and wait for you to answer to go to the bathroom? If he has to use the bathroom, he's getting up and going, because I raised an independent young man. He is going to be happy. He's going to be successful. And I'm not going to allow anybody, especially when it comes to people of authority who have that authority in a room like that, to make him feel small or turn him into a robot. So his happiness and his success that I want for him actually starts now. And I let him know no one can kill it, because I got you. I got your back. Regardless of what it is, it may sound crazy to other people. They may not like it, and they have their own opinions. I try not to give my opinion on other people, the way they raise their kids, because I don't like it when people do it to me. But
Uh-oh, how come I can't
You
hear?
muted out.
I can't hear you.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Them, I definitely try to, that child that I want to see as a successful and happy adult, I want to see them as that same successful and happy person now. So I'm trying to help build them into what what I see in them. I'm trying to help grow that and get them to that place, that they really want, to be, because I believe that's what's going to make them happy. And anything
Yes.
them is what's going to make them successful. You have to use your gifts. So yeah, that's what I want from
Right. Okay. Good deal. So, Miss Jovonka, moving
Yes,
right
sir.
along, what is your favorite? This is like a two-part question. So,
Okay.
what is your favorite part of being a mom? What has given you joy? And what advice would you give to the generations coming up that's about to start, motherhood?
Mhm.
What advice would you give to them? What do you think is very critical to remember, as becoming a mom?
Okay, my favorite part of being a mom was I had a bunch of little friends. That was my favorite part, because we did a whole lot together, because like I said, it was just us, and we live in Arizona. We're from New Jersey, but we lived in Arizona, so we didn't have any family here. My closest relative was 3,000 miles away, and so we were we were like everything to each other. So that was my favorite part, the fact that I got to like dress. We all dressed alike. We all like wore like the same sneakers all the time. We just did a lot of fun stuff. We would play club at the house. We would like have a fake party going on with the blinking lights, and it was just a good time. So that was my favorite part, and getting involved in things that they did at school, and my son playing sports and stuff. That was my favorite part of them growing up, being a mother, just enjoying the enjoyment I got out of just the activities that we did and hanging out with them. I hung out with them all the time until they got tired of me hanging out with them, and then they kicked me to the curb. But that's my favorite part. And then the advice that I would give to the next generation who's going to start a family, or began I guess going into motherhood or whatever, it would be motherhood. It doesn't really, being a parent don't come with the instruction book, and
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't come with a book to tell you, hey, you should do this, you should do that. And even though people write books about parenting, my thoughts was always, but you don't have my child. My child is probably different than Bobby, than your child you wrote this book about. And so I know you have a bunch of child psychologists out there who's doing a great job, and they're good at what they do. But just getting to know your own child, and like learning their behavior, and just getting to know them and grow them, then that's the advice that I would give. Like, make sure you have a good foundation before you even go into that. And unfortunately, sometimes it just happens, people become parents like boom, and then sometimes they plan it out. So I would just say, just make sure that you have a good foundation laid when you begin to build your family, when you begin to just think about the things that you want and the things that you don't want for your children. Like
Mm-hmm.
Jacquel, she has a different view than probably a lot of people. She allows her to express themselves. She allows them. I never liked the whole children should be, I never liked that growing up. Children should be seen and not heard. I never liked that expression. So when I had children, I said, that's one thing I'm not going to do. If you want to say something, tell me what it is you're feeling. Tell me what it is that's on your mind, because we had so many people growing up that was never allowed to express themselves. And that's why we have our generation, really, I'm 51, and I believe that our generation, we have a hard time communicating with the generation behind us, the millennials, the ones that's coming up behind us. We don't understand them. And the reason why we don't understand them is because they're a lot more mouthier than we were. We wasn't that mouthy. So my advice to the next generation coming up would be to make sure you have a good foundation. When you begin to build your family and you have children, make sure that, and my foundation was Christ. And so make sure you laying it on something solid. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Make sure you build
Yeah.
something solid, something that's built to last. And I know that only what you do for Christ will last. So that's a great foundation that you began with. So that would be my advice to anybody in the next generation having children or be
Okay.
starting a family.
Uh-huh. So, living in the society of today, we have the thing with, the teenage kids, well, I'm not even going to say teenage, just being Black in America. And, one of, this is like the top of the list for every mom. And I'm not even going to say every mom, every parent right now. The top of the list is having a fear of your child going out, driving, being stopped for no reason, and being mistreated by the police, guns drawn out on them, what have you. And, we see the videos and, it's like a 50-50. Some videos we see from the time that before the cops, walks up to the car, the kids is already like this, and they're mouthing, they're already mouthing at the cops. So that's already, setting the cop off. Okay, so we got this type of person that we're going to deal with. So their reaction is going to be the same thing of pretty much what they're doing. But at the same time, you have kids that's being brought up and to be well-mannered. And the cop may walk up to the car and they're like, how's it going today, sir? Did I do something wrong? And the cop is already, mouthing at him or whatever, and it's like every mom's fear. But how do you prepare a child for things like this? I mean, like you just said, there's no book pertaining to motherhood, and there's really no book, pertaining to that, because you never know when and if it will happen. But how do you talk to your kids, to kind of explain to them the things that's going on, because a lot of things, some kids, they feel like, well, if I hang out with this group, this is not going to happen to me. Because you're hanging out with kids from the hills versus hanging out with kids from the hoods. But when you're stopped, it really doesn't matter. And, so how do you even talk to your kids and just prepare them or make them aware of what's going on, without, because the last thing we want our kids to do is walk and operate in fear. That's not something that we teach them.
Absolutely.
But how, and yet how do you talk to
them? So I could are underage and are not driving yet.
Right.
Have not gotten to the point, but they will be very soon. My daughter's 12, about to be 13. My son is 11 and he'll be 12 this year. So they're getting very close to that age. And it's a very sensitive subject where we live currently, because we're on the East Coast now. We're back in Jersey, me and my kids. It is very, especially Newark, where we live, it's very Black everywhere, Black everything. There is no such thing as, oh, you have multicultural. Yeah, right. So that doesn't exist where we live. And my kids go into a school district and they seen other kids compared to where they were in Arizona. And I had to have a talk with them at that time, because they were in Arizona with multiple races, Native American, white, Black, Mexican, and they're biracial. my children are mixed. So they have a couple of things in them and can pass for a couple of things, to be honest. So, they didn't have that problem out there. Out here, I let them know, this is the people you look like. This is what they will assume that you are when seeing you. My son looks like a Dominican. My daughter looks like a Puerto Rican, and I, as their mother, look Black or Dominican. Both, I get it all the time. So I tell them, this is what they're going to assume you are. This is what you look like when you're out and about. And it's not even just driving in a car, because I have seen and have witnessed kids walking from school, playing outside of the school right after school. My son was roughhousing with a boy, on the corner one day after school. And I'm like, I'm afraid. What if a cop pulled up? What if? So I had to have a talk with him. And the only thing that I could tell him, honestly, is whatever directions you're given, follow.
Mm-hmm.
Follow the direction.
I'm not asking you to speak up for all Black people in America the moment that you are pulled over.
Mm-hmm.
Afterwards, we'll deal with that if that's something we need to deal with. But at that time, I don't think I think that it's terrible, the climate that we're living in right now, because we all feel like we're on a defense. As soon as we do get scared, we jump on a defense, and that's what causes the camera to come out, the attitudes to hit.
Yeah.
And I just try to tell him, keep calm. You follow orders. When that is done, I know that you are probably going to feel degraded. And it's sad to say it, but it's the truth. They take these badges too far. I know that you feel degraded. I know that you're going to feel small. They're going to say things and probably make you do things that you're not going to like, but do it. We will deal with them later. As far as at that moment, to keep them alive, unfortunately, I have to say, be quiet. Follow orders. But that's what I tell my son. I know you look like one of the kids they want.
Right.
And it's sad to say, but it's the truth. Now, my daughter, on the other hand, is a girl, and it's a little bit different for girls, but we've seen lately on the news that it's been, a couple of females have been killed in certain situations. And I tell her, even though you don't identify immediately with those girls physically, but my daughter is blackety black, y'all. I mean, when I say,
Black out. Yes, she is.
Automatically don't look at her and say black. They just don't, because of the way, she's like bright skin, has very wavy, super long hair. So it does not automatically come off as, oh, you're Black. They're like, what are you mixed with? That's what she gets.
Right.
So to an officer or something like that, or the outside, they're going to look at her and they're going to say, the other girls around her, if they're darker skin, they're going to get it first. And it's unfair. But I tell her, I said, listen, don't try and be the voice because of the fact that you are not getting it.
Right.
Same thing goes for it. Don't try and be the voice. I know what you believe. We know what you stand for. We know how you are. But it's a scary thing, because I don't want you to go through that without me. I don't want you to go through that without me being there. So the only thing I have to do is quiet, follow directions. Don't speak.
Yeah.
Even if they're asking you information, you have a right to remain silent. Don't say anything. Nothing.
That's right. Use your
Good
right.
deal. Good deal.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. You actually had some feedback, Jacquel, when you were speaking earlier. Yolanda said her mom taught her the same way when you were talking about in school. Basically, don't you dare raise your hand. You can let them know you're going to the bathroom, but you don't have to raise your hand.
Yeah.
And basically, she said her mom taught her, the same way. You don't have to be disrespectful, but basically, if they say no, ignore them and keep going. She said she's 50 plus now. She turned out fine. So
right.
Yeah. So I just read her comment. I was like, okay. But yeah. So
out of the system. So that's why I tell him that. Don't you follow their rules.
Right.
It's up like a prison system. No, we're not doing it.
So out of the two of you, who is the funnest? Who's considered the fun mom?
Me. I am hands down. I am.
That too. I have been mom even when I was, like she said, she gave me a role, and I think I maybe took it a little too far. You know what I mean? Because I was even her mom a lot of times. I'd be like, Mommy,
she did. She told me, you gotta chill.
It's 9 talking. I did. I do.
Do.
I'm no fun. I'm not gonna lie.
She's not fun at all. She's not fun at all. And this is a funny story that's true, right? One day, I'm gonna tell the story real quick. Because one day, me and her were both working at the pharmacy together, right? And so one day, my other daughter, Sherelle, came in. She got into something at school. So she walked my job and she was crying. And so when I saw her crying, like Jacquel said, I'm not a very emotional person. I don't do emotion really well. And so when I saw her walking up crying, I looked at Jacquel. I was like, what are you crying for? And so she comes over to the counter like, Mommy, I need to talk to you. Like something happened at school. So I looked at Jacquel. I was like, go handle that. When she stopped crying, I'll go over there. And so Jacquel goes outside of the pharmacy and she's sitting in the lobby area, like consoling her and hugging her. So then the pharmacist that I was working with, he looks at me, he said, which one of you are the mom? Whose daughter is that? I said, oh, it's my daughter. He's like, she looks more like the mom because she's consoling her. And I'm like, I don't do that. I don't do the crying thing. So you handle that. And when she calmed down, I'll go talk to her. So Jacquel always been like the console, the hug, had her arm around her and was like, it's going to be okay. So then when she stopped crying, I'm like, what happened? Jacquel was like, some girl at school said something to her. I was like, well, we'll go up there tomorrow, but we're not going to sit here and cry about it. So yeah, she's like corny. Jacquel's corny.
And see, that's too funny because I would say you would be the consoling one and Jacquel would be the one say, girl, you better shut that noise up and get over it.
It's the opposite.
No,
it's the opposite.
With her.
Wow.
That with her. Because she's too much. Like I tell her, you have to sit down, be quiet. Jovonka, that's enough. I really have to talk to her like that because she doesn't know when enough is enough.
And I used to tell my kids all the time, Eric, I used to say I was going to make a t-shirt, but I never did. I never seen the t-shirt. So if anybody want to take the idea and run with it, I'm all for it. Let me do it out there. I used to tell my kids, don't cry over spilled milk. Clean it up.
Right.
Just clean it up.
Right.
Let's not cry. Let's go handle this. You know what I mean? What's she crying for? Let's go up to the school and handle that tomorrow.
Right.
But Jacquel's corny though. She's corny.
So before we wrap it up, you guys have been great. Wow.
You.
Great discussion. Great discussion. Is there anything you think we may have overlooked about just being a mother, being a parent? Is there anything you think we may have overlooked in our discussion that you want to piggyback off of?
I have something to say. So my mother talked about the disconnect between your generation and the millennials. And I think that I do have, as a millennial, some advice for those parents who, not the next generation, like coming from y'all to, advice to us, because she's already given that advice, but advice for your generation from us. If you have a child that you don't have a relationship with and they are, and it is a generational gap, something going on with communication when it comes from us to, your generation, it really is something there that needs to be broken. And I think that the biggest thing that we would like, and I'm speaking for my generation because they're not here, from my generation to yours, we would like for you to just listen. Everything is not a need for comment. We don't need to know how you grew up or what happened to you or how you handled something. For us, we are very outspoken. We do sometimes lash out. We have, we express ourselves emotionally a lot. We speak how we feel. But one thing is we don't put up with nonsense. And we think a lot of the comparison from your generation when speaking to us, it hurts because you guys sometimes are a lot stronger than we are because we're a little bit more emotional. So it makes us feel small. And so I think listening, being open to what it is that's being, expressed to you, not necessarily changing or altering yourself for anybody, but be open and accepting because we're not like you and we are not you. So if you want to bridge that gap, mend any relationship that you do have with your children, regardless of how long it's been that you have not talked to them, I would say to just pick up the phone and let them know I'm listening. You really don't have to say anything else because we'll start talking because that's the type of people we are. So I think that's important in parenting, not just motherhood, even though today's Mother's Day, that's a father speaking to his children. That's a mother reaching out to her children. I don't care how old they are. I don't care how far and how long it's been. That will work because it worked for me. And I think we were about as far gone as you can honestly.
It's bad.
You know, and what you just said, wow. What you just said means so much because, you know, a lot of times a kid will back off from the parent because they feel like they can't talk to them. So what you just said about when that child is ready to talk, just be quiet and listen. Let them vent, you know, because that's what happens. Because soon as you start trying to give them feedback, they'll be like, see, that's why I didn't even want to talk to you.
Right.
You would never let me speak. But when it has gotten to that point, a lot of times it may not just be that kid. We as an adults, we have to do a self-inventory and figure out, what am I doing to play a part in this? You know, because I raised that child, you know, with plenty of love. You know, when we grew up, Jovonka, we didn't get that tuck you in the bed, I love you, and the kiss on the forehead, because our parents felt like, I'm working hard, I'm clothing you, I'm feeding you, that's it, you know. So they didn't get that. I mean, we didn't get that. But, you know, now in today's society, you know, it's big. You know, my kids, they're big. I love you. I may hear it 5 times a day. So when you know that the upbringing has been like that, and then around 14, 15, 16, there's a disconnect, then it's like, okay, what happened here? You know, I haven't been too strict on them. You know, I haven't did this. I haven't did this. So what's going on here? And a lot of times it's something that we have said to them that totally killed them on the inside, and they never voiced it. Instead of them voicing it, they just shut down.
Yeah.
They just, and we're going on with our daily life. I don't know what's wrong with him. That boy, something wrong with him. He acting like his mama. You know,
something happened.
Something happened. Yeah. And you know, and it's like when they finally say, "Can we talk?" and they start talking and they release it, and you just sit there and be quiet. And like you said, with the two of you, and you guys were able to talk, and you mended all of that broken time that you had between each other. You know, it's not normal, but it was needed.
Right.
You know, it was needed. You know, you guys had time to work on, you had time to work on you, you had time to work on you. And then once you were ready, you sat down and you talked about it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I had to take responsibility. That's the thing that our generation don't do. We don't take responsibility. We'll listen to them and we'll let them say, well, you did this, you did. And we're like, well, I did that because. It's not I did that because, it's I'm sorry. It's just simply, I'm sorry, because you have a right to feel how you feel. You know, when Jacquel came to me and she said, well, I did this, that, and the other thing because of the way you treated me. You always talk to me this way. All I said was, I didn't try to defend what I did. I took responsibility. I said, well, you're right. Maybe I didn't know how to talk to you, but now I do. So let's just start from here. And I'm sorry. I apologize for what I did. I apologize for that. We don't want to take responsibility because we don't want to feel like we were a bad parent. I don't think I was a bad parent. I think I did the best I could. And you can't knock me for doing my best. You know what I mean? I did the best I could, you know, and that's it. And I just believe that my best was good enough because of the outcome. I believe that it was, but like I said earlier, I know I didn't do everything right, but I'm taking responsibility for the things that I know that I didn't do right now. You know, I take full responsibility for those things. And like I said, that's all they want to hear sometimes is a simple, I'm sorry. You're right. You're right. I did do that. I'm sorry.
Right. But don't just say I'm sorry just to make them feel better.
Right.
You know, you got to say I'm sorry, then you got to build a foundation on why I'm sorry. You know, you got to let them know, I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry this happened. You know, because now you're giving them something to build off of, and you're giving them hope. And they're saying, okay, so maybe dad has changed. You know, he's never told me this before. He's never took 30 minutes to listen and hear me out. Now he's asking me, can we go out to dinner next week? Just him and I, you know, and sometimes it's not, because, you know, a lot of times us as men, we shut down. Well, I ain't gonna go be around my kids. I'm broke. I can't. Sometimes it's just a walk through the park.
You're right.
You know, everybody got a few old pieces of bread at home. It's all, let's just get some bread and go to the park and feed the ducks and just talk.
Right.
You know,
It's like,
Absolutely.
right.
let's
Let's take a drive.
Right.
Yes.
We can go get a big gulp and 2 straws and take a drive and just talk. You know, we can just scream at each other until there's nothing else to talk about. You know, I'm looking at Yolanda. She says she's just amazed at how you two rebuilt your relationship. You're a prime example that it's never too late. She said everyone should keep this in mind. She said she just prayed that one day her son and his dad can mend their relationship. She said they both are the same, stubborn. And that's basically what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, you have to basically just sit back and hear each other out. It may turn into a shouting match, but if I'm listening while you're shouting and you're listening while I'm shouting, you know, we're getting there. You know, we're making a little leeway.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
That's right. That's what LifeStruction is all about, right? Rebuilding.
Yeah. That's right.
A new culture for parents and children, because that old stuff didn't work. It really did not work out. So now I say, let's create a culture of listening with effort. Put something behind what you're listening to. Don't just listen, but do something about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, ladies, I thank you so much for this awesome discussion. And, you know, I love it because a lot of times people are busy on Sundays, but, you know, around, you know, they'll watch it later, and all week long I'll be getting feedback. So I'm just excited to hear what type of feedback we're going to get back from people when they chime in to watch it. This was great. You guys gave some great advice. We talked about everything: disconnect, reconnecting, love, kids that kind of stray away, but they come back, you know, just rebuilding. It was great. So definitely, I love you guys for coming on today.
Love you too.
And
we love you too.
If there is anyone that this is their first time connecting on here, be sure to follow me, Instagram, or my LifeStruction page. We post stuff on it all week. Also, we'll be posting some information on who will be on next week. But yeah, definitely connect with me on this. And if you know someone that wants to watch and they don't have a Facebook page, we do stream live on Instagram. On YouTube as well. So definitely chime in with us. Once again, we thank you so much. Once again, happy Mother's Day to everyone, all of the mothers that were watching. And definitely stay connected. Keep being great parents. And it's just amazing. This is prime example. Kids may, you know, start to take their own route. They may disconnect, but as long as there's love and you're able to communicate, you know, tear down pretty much the walls that's been defected and build new ones, you can rebuild a relationship with your family. Miss Mary Banks, happy Mother's Day to you. We see you streaming today. Happy Mother's Day to you. Yeah, so other than that, great discussion. You guys have a great week.
Yes, you too.
And remember to wake up each day and smile from your heart before you walk out the door. Your smile will definitely bless someone that don't have any type of glow in their life. So
thank you for the invite too. We want to thank you for the invite. Thank you so much.
Definitely.
We appreciate
Thank you for coming on. I know Mother's Day is busy, so thank you guys for coming on. So I know, Jacquel, you're on my time zone. You're in Jersey, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we were pretty much in the house anyway, you know, but it started at 4 for you.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for taking out, and we will talk soon. You guys have a great one.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.